All right, so everybody, we're live and we're doing this right now. So let's get started. And welcome to three killer components of delivering business value with PAM. So I'm going to get right to it here, and we'll cover our three use cases that we have. So one is going to be privilege elevation, and how this cuts risk by 80%, easily cuts risk by 80%, because what it's going to do, it's going to step up elevation of the privilege credential as needed. The second one we're doing is going to be a just-in-time hook. And what that's going to be, it's going to essentially assign permissions to the credential at the time of request. This is going to shrink the attack surface of all these accounts sitting there in rest quite significantly, because at rest the account would be a regular user. We'll show that. And then lastly, we're going to show event subscriptions and pipelines, how that really cuts to the chase with alerting to awareness of what's happening in the environment, and then taking action proactively with these machine workflows of event pipelines. So let's kind of take a look at what we're going to be looking at, and then I'll do the demo. Okay, so going into privilege elevation, what we're going to be doing there is we're going to go into a server, and we're going to select this option here called Run with Privilege. And what this is going to do is going to step up privilege of the application that we select. And then what we're going to be able to see, and I'll demo this, is you'll be able to see the elevated in the task manager here. The elevated is going to be indicated for the application we choose is going to be a yes, whereas everything else in this session is going to be a no. It's quite awesome to watch that work. Even at the simplest demo makes that look really good. And then next thing we're going to do is just-in-time hooks. What this is going to be is going to take a user and take them from a regular and transform them essentially magically and put them into an admin role. And this is going to be on the fly at the checkout point of time for the credential. And then at the point of check-in, whether that's automatically or manually checking in, it's going to remove that permission. Okay, it's going to basically do this what this screen is showing, and I'll demo that as well. And then lastly, we're going to be taking a look at event subscriptions and pipelines. We're going to focus in on two specific ones in particular: heartbeat failure alert, which is one of these kind of things that because Secret Server it references Active Directory or the IDP, we want to make sure that everybody is well informed of any heartbeat failures, because that's going to either be an indicator that something has become unhealthy in the environment, or a password's been changed on Active Directory, for example, and then would come out of sync. So, and then lastly, we're going to look at event pipelines, and then looking at notification of the admins when a secret's checked out. So this is a proactive way we can, once that secret's checked out, we're getting a message, and then we can actually stack on other tasks and actions to the machine workflow that's happening in the background. All right, so without further ado, let me kind of go right in here and let's take a look and see what we're take a look at our examples. All right. So we are in Secret Server, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a step up of privilege. So we're going to come in here, we're going to go to a server, and we're going to scroll down and find our server that we're going to gain access to. And for this particular one, we're going to use a manual credential, because what I'm going to show is I'm going to come in here with 0 privilege. This is a regular user, and we're going to step up privilege as needed. So using a manual credential at this point in time. Okay. And then what it's going to do is going to open up a tab here, open up our session, and give us an MFA. This is not what we're talking about within this particular demo, but what we're going to do is step up privilege for that particular user after we log in. So give it a sec here. And we're in the session. So now what we're going to do is this is a common one that happened. If you're ever a webmaster or worked on websites all the time, this one was a big one, or even internal web applications. But editing the host file, this one always gets us. So what we're going to do here is we're going to we're going to come in here. We're going to elevate Notepad, because this was the gotcha one that it was always get me. I'd go to the edit the host file, and then it would prompt me that I was not did not have enough permissions on my account, and then I'd essentially have to do a UAC prompt or log in, log out if it was an older server, and then come back into it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at Notepad. We're going to elevate Notepad, but before I do that, let's take a look at Task Manager and look at the details here. We're going to see that everything right now, everything that I'm running is at a no level. We can see that right here in this column stated elevated. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Notepad, and I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to say run with privilege. And what this is going to do is I'm going to get various profiles in a different session that we're going to be carrying on. We're going to show how to establish these profiles and get granular. What we're going to do is we're going to pick one of the ones that I've already defined at this moment in time. So we're going to pick local admin profile. And what this is going to do is going to give us another MFA prompt. If you knew my favorite team, you'd be able to pick out all those. All right. So now we're in Notepad at elevated, and watch what's going to happen here. Is we come back over here, Notepad is now elevated. So what this gives us the ability to do is if you're in Notepad, you could edit like a system type of files, such as this host file in this particular case. So that is one use case there. That is elevating privilege as needed, stepping it up with MFA. Okay, so that is use case number one there in our examples of privilege elevation. Next one we're going to go through is going to be we're going to take a look at just in time. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to a particular service account. So what we're transitioned from basically stepping up privileges on accounts, then what we're going to do now is we're going to add permissions to an account from it being at rest to being at an active state. So here we go. So we're going to come into this particular account. You'll notice that we're going to check it out. And I'm going to point out the various aspects here before I get that it's doing its work right now. Okay, so we see the details of the secret, the credential here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to look at hooks, and we're going to see what what's doing when it does a check-in, check-out. So what this particular process is doing, and when I check it out, it's going to take the user and move them into the domain admins category for that particular session. And when we check it back in, either automatically or manually, if here, it will remove the domain admin permissions. That looks like this if we were to take a look at that account in Active Directory. So we can see that if I was to click on the user, we can see that we're a member of domain admins right now, and we have the secret checked out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this secret and we're going to say, okay, I'm done using it now. So we're going to come over here. We're going to check it back in. And then that hook's going to fire, and it's going to say, okay, this secret's been checked back in. What we're going to do now is put that user back into the regular use group and remove the domain admin privileges from it. So let's take it back, go back over to Active Directory. And we'll see that this is now in the guests here. In the admins, now it's in the guests. So that's just in time off a checkout, check-in, action. What that's given us again is the ability for just-in-time elevation of a privileged account, needing it, except for having account always with admin permissions or elevated permissions at rest. What we're doing is we're giving that account, when it's in use, giving it the appropriate permissions, and then when we're done, taking those permissions away. Okay. That works in smaller environments. Typically, if you have, just some caveat there for this one, if you have replication lag in your Active Directory or your IDP, how they're replicating between domain controllers, you could get a little lag there. Obviously, you can see because we're adding the group permissions to the user. But this is just one other way of doing it. If you didn't have the lag in your environment, this will work perfectly well. All right. Last up here, we're going to take a look at event subscriptions and pipelines. So we're going to come over here. Let's get out of these right here. Okay. Now let me log back into this. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at event subscriptions first. Just going to pop in here. And the example that we're going to use, if we take a look back at our, we're going to look at a heartbeat failure alert. So if we take a look at this one right here, we're going to yield our result that looks like this here in our example. So we're going to come over to admin. Now this is really nice because you can basically keep people, not only the session recording, session monitoring, where you're doing video and video analysis, but the event subscriptions can keep everybody very accountable as well, because events that are happening in the environment can now be, we can have alerts set to them, and that is in the form of these event subscriptions. So we're going to take a look at the one we did here for heartbeat failure. We'll take a look how it works, and then maybe we'll roll through a wizard of how to create it. So what we can see here is we see the event, we see it's a heartbeat failure. We pointed it at a particular folder within our secret set. And so I pointed it to a folder called organizational credentials. And what we're doing here is we've subscribed the cloud admin. This could be any user or a group of users, put in here. And then we have our alert associated rule here. So essentially, when any credential fails within the heartbeat fails within this organizational credential folder, it's going to send out an alert to cloud admin. So this is very handy for making sure that two things aren't occurring. One, that the environment is becoming gradually unhealthy. So that would be one reason why you want to take a look at this. The second reason is if somebody either accidentally or on purpose changed the password in Active Directory, for example, it would get the secret to Active Directory out of sync, and it would then thus return a heartbeat failure. Of course, if it was on a password rotation, you had to take over account the password reset. But let's say the event that you did not have that, or were in between password rotations, this would alert the cloud admin in this case and say, hey, we have a heartbeat failure, and might want to take a look at this particular case and see what the issue is. All right, so that is going on with event subscriptions. Let's take a look at how we kind of step through and create one. So we're going to come over here to event subscriptions, and we're going to say, I'm going to send an email. Let's first go Bert's test. And then we're going to pick an event here, and we're going to say, we can pick any of these. You can see it's how very flexible and how many options we have here. You can see how if we scroll down here, we can see everything from, pretty much every aspect of Secret Server is represented within here. So we can generate alerts based upon all these, what I would call hooks or points of reference into Secret Server. So I'm just going to pick a secret, and then we're going to say, okay. The secret, I did the heartbeat failure, so that's a little later down the line here. But if we were to do other ones like access was approved, denied, anything around that, if we did it expired today, we could get an alert there. We have the heartbeat failure, which I've set up, but I just want to roll through some of these a little bit more so you can see. Anytime maybe we launch a secret, we could get an alert there. We have some pre-check-in, check-out scenarios that we can put in there as well for alerting. And then you can see viewing the password or viewing the secret, a policy change that is applied to the password. We can see all that, get alerted. So basically, Secret Server is, again, an enterprise vault, keeping all these various configuration components in the database as it applies to the secret. But what this event subscription is going to be able to enable you to do is have visibility into kind of the internals that is happening on a transactional basis within Secret Server per credential, per secret. So this is why this is critically important to set these up, especially on tier 1 types of accounts. Okay, the tier 1 type of accounts, as I define them, would be domain controller access, CRM, ERP, admin level credential access, major service accounts. Okay, that can take down different systems if they are mishandled. All these are types of tier 1 accounts. Even you could even say that some domain admin types of accounts could be tier 1 accounts. depending upon the use case there. If they're maybe especially if they're a shared service account, I would definitely consider them a tier 1 if they have admin permissions. So all these, of course, you can just get alerts and then be in the know of what's happening. Now, let's take a look. We've covered that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at one other setting here, another powerful element within Secret Server, which is called event pipelines. And let's take a look at our use case here. Our use case is going to be notified admins of secret checkout. All right, because again, this is going to be related to that tier 1. And I want to kind of reiterate here that subscriptions are for awareness, okay? And pipelines are for taking action. And these machine workflows that are running in the background, I mean, I caution to ever use the word AI when it comes to this, but this is probably the closest we have to AI without actually using AI, because basically using machine intelligence here based on rules that you set up, of course, and it's running these tasks and running these on behalf of the operation that you set up in the configuration. So let's take a look and see one of these in action here. Notify admins of secret checkout. Okay, so coming back over here and let's take a look at what we have. Okay, we have one. I set this one here. We have a send email on tier 1 checkout to owners. Take a look and see what that looks like. We can see that we have a checkout event that is occurring here. We have, if we were to come on across that, well, let's just set up one. Let's just set up the same one. So we're going to go secret. And then we're going to go for our event here. Our trigger is going to be a checkout. Okay, we're going to click next. And then we're going to say secret. We're going to go with secret name. Secret name equals tier 1 special. All right, so you could do this if you had like a certain set of secrets that just a few that you run to keep a lot of action on, or a lot of eyeballs on, and then be able to take action if these triggers happen. So we're going to just name that tier 1 special. And then next thing we're going to do, so we got our secret matches, tier 1 special, secret name, our filter. And then we're going to go next, and then we're going to apply our tasks. So then we can, I believe what we wanted to do is come down here and we will email the owners. All right, so you can see how this flows here, and we'll just trigger this as a high priority. We'll click save. All right, and then we'll name this tier 1 notification of special secret. Okay, click save there. All right, so now we have another pipeline in the place. Okay, so now what we're going to do over here is we're going to create a policy, add a policy, create a policy. We need a policy, an active policy, to be able to trigger the pipeline. So we're going to say tier 1 access, secret, create, add pipeline. Little camera in front there. Okay, this one here, and we're running in the races now. Okay, so what we're going to do is take a look at back to the presentation and kind of do a recap. So what we've covered here today is privilege elevation, Okay, again, this is stepping up the access of an existing session user, so they're not in with standing permissions. They're stacking and stepping up permissions as needed per process that they need to run or application they need to run. The next thing that we took a look at was just-in-time hooks. So this is basically triggering based upon a checkout, check-in, where a PowerShell in this case is going. A PowerShell script is going to run. In this case, it's adding a user to domain admins, and then secondary, after a check-in has occurred, it's going to remove them from the domain admins. We watch that in action. And then lastly, we take a look at some examples here of event subscription, event pipelines, with the focus of noting that event subscriptions are all about awareness. Event pipelines are about action. We can kind of take a look here at some of the examples that I've indicated here for subscriptions. These can be anything from logged in attempts to permissions changing on folders. That's a big one. All the way to, we take a look at pipelines. Some of the neat ones in here would be restrict actions based upon a check-in for specific groups. We could do that one. That's kind of granular at that level. Changing folder permissions on a secret creation. Basically doing that on the fly with the background workflow. And then this is another handy one: send alert on repeated failed attempts. So we can put that in place. But these are just some examples here that we can use for pipelines and again for subscriptions. So that concludes what we have here for today's Lunch Bites by Bert. And thank you for watching. And that will conclude our webinar. So I do appreciate your time and have a great day.